So we had that tune, and we presented it to the band, and we went into the studio, and Jeff and Jimmy both played on it, and they both thought up these great parts. Jimmy thought up this this sort of riff, and Jeff did this sort of really weird solo right through the middle of it, and made it into a very strange record. And John Paul Jones, the bass player from Zeppelin, played the bass, and we were very proud of it. But it didn't really get anywhere. It was sort of too weird, you know. This was our latest record, and we took it over to America, and we were suggesting we played on this tour called the Caravan of Stars, which was with all these sort of very straight pop acts like Gary Lewis and the Playboys, and Sam the Sham, and the Pharaohs, were they? The Pharaohs, yeah. And Brian Hyland, and it was very strange for us. And we were travelling in a Greyhound bus, playing at least one show a night, sometimes 2 shows a night. And it was a very sort of grueling experience. And actually, after the first night, we played somewhere in New Mexico, and Jeff Beck was so upset. He was so stressed out. He really lost his temper, and he went into the dressing room and he smashed this Les Paul up on the table into little bits. I mean, how much are they worth, these things?
Smashed a $250,000 guitar.
Quarter of a million, he said. He smashed that up, and he walked off. He said, "I don't like this anymore. I'm going to stay with my girlfriend in California." And he went off to stay with this girl that was like did beach movies. You know, she was like a Hollywood starlet, and that was Mary Hughes. Her name was. And he didn't come back for the tour. We had to do the whole tour as a 4-piece, which did quite work, but it was still a very unpleasant tour. So the end of the story was we went back to England, and we sacked Jeff because he sort of let us down for the tour, which was a terrible thing to say. And I knew him for a long time after we were friends. For about 26 years later, I didn't realise that he was still very angry about being sacked. So this is what happened.
Yeah, I have done other music after the Yardbirds, but anyway, somebody told me I should be proud tonight, but I'm not, because they kicked me out. They did. Fuck them.
So I think he sort of made it up a bit for the audience, you know, but underneath there was some sort of feeling, I think, about it. And Jeff was a funny guy because he never used to really tell you how he thought of things. He kept it all underneath, and it came out in his playing, you know, and it was great playing, and he expressed himself completely playing all that great music, you know, and he didn't express himself. But you know, it's terrible to think we didn't have Jeff anymore, but we had some peace and quiet. And we had like professionalism, and we carried on playing as a 4-piece, and it went pretty well. You know, we went around the world, played in Australia and Scandinavia, and kept going in England, and kept coming back to the States. Did anyone see us as a 4-piece? Anyone here? I know you did, Alan. Is Alan here? I'm sure you are. But yeah, we did quite well, but we were a bit stuck with the hit because we didn't have the same creative spark as with Paul Samwell-Smith and Jeff, and it didn't really sort of do very much. And we were looking for another hit, and we went to Mickey Most, who was really, you know, the hit maker of the day, and he was the real producer in England, and he produced people like the Animals and Donovan and Hermit's Hermits, and we just thought, oh, we know we're really desperate for a hit. So we went to him, but he had a very strange way of working, and it was very, very authoritarian, and we had to do everything his own way. He had to, and he used to record the backing track in the morning, and then do the vocals in the afternoon, and then mix in the evening. And this worked, with a group like the Animals that had a great song, and they went in and they did House of the Rising Sun like in one day. And if we'd have had a song like that, that was all prepared, and we played it live, we might have done better. But it never really worked with Mickey, unfortunately. But the good thing about Mickey was he had a partner who was a sort of an ex-wrestler and a tour manager, and he was called Peter Grant, and he was a good guy, and he became our manager because he shared the management first of all with Simon Napier Bell, and then Simon sort of disappeared for some reason. But Peter was a great guy, and he always ensured that the group got paid, and he was very, very pro the musicians, but he never seemed to be very interested in getting any money for himself. So it was odd, but he was a good person. God bless him. But we carried on, and we did another album called Little Games. Have you heard of Little Games?
Yeah.
We did another album with Jimmy, and John Paul Jones actually played a lot, called Little Games, and it did quite well. But Jimmy had a particular tuning, and one of the songs we're going to play now, or Godfrey's going to play now, but Godfrey will explain from a musician's point of view the special tuning that Jimmy had.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a tuning that was made up by a guy named Davy Graham, who was English, was he, Jim, or Welsh folk singer, and he traveled around a lot to foreign countries, and it was kind of like a tuning from another country that he made up so he can play with these foreign instruments. And it's known as dadgad tuning because it's D-A-D-G-A-D. The strings are tuned from the regular standard tuning to D-A-D-G-A-D, and so it's known as dadgad. And I'm going to play something from later on that Jimmy recorded in the same tuning.